Hollywood spent decades using native peoples as background, while the real story remained locked away in archives. There were empires that rivaled those of Europe, tactics that others copied, and tragedies that many preferred to forget. These aren't legends. They're 20 documented facts that almost no one taught and almost no one filmed. Long before Columbus, there was already a huge city where Illinois is today. Thousands of people lived there. They built giant earthen pyramids, bigger than many European structures of that time. And then it completely disappeared and was gone. When others arrived later, they only saw grass-covered mounds, never imagining what had once been there. In World War II, the Army needed an unbreakable code and recruited young Navajos. The incredible thing is that when they returned, they were forbidden to speak. The secret lasted for decades, and recognition came late. Long before many modern democracies, there were already confederations with rules, councils, and the right to veto. Some politicians of the time saw these systems and took away ideas about unity without losing their voice. The population was enormous. And then collapse came. New diseases changed everything in a very short time. Afterwards, many said it was empty. But the truth is, sometimes what was empty was simply what was left behind. For almost a century, boarding schools tried to erase identities. Language was forbidden, hair was cut, families were forcibly separated. Many grew up without roots. And the worst part is, this wasn't centuries ago. It was much more recent than you think. In 1890, a ceremony became a symbol. The ghost dance promised renewal, and that terrified the government. When fear's in charge, everything gets misinterpreted. And the result is usually tragedy, not dialogue. In many nations, women held the real power, land, home, and key decisions. And some not only made decisions, they also fought. Real warrior women with names and histories almost erased from the story. Across the Great Plains, a sign language united dozens of peoples, trade, alliances, and peace, all without words. Many outsiders first learned those signs because it was the fastest way to survive and negotiate. Lacrosse began as a small-scale war. Games lasted for hours, fields stretched for miles, and it had a social and spiritual purpose. They chewed willow bark for paymonies. Today, we know that's where the chemical basis for aspirin comes from. That knowledge traveled, was renamed, and almost never credited to those who discovered it first. Another uncomfortable truth. Before Europe, wars between peoples already existed, and sometimes the defeated lost their freedom. In 1680, a leader achieved the impossible, uniting different peoples and coordinating an uprising with precision. The strike was simultaneous. Colonial power was broken, and the survivors fled in desperation. For years, they ruled their land and reclaimed their practices. It was a victory that is hardly ever mentioned. For decades, remains and sacred objects ended up in museums and private collections, far from their communities. And worst of all, many young people grew up never seeing the objects that defined their own identity. In recent times, a law allowed for an unexpected economic turnaround. Some nations built schools and hospitals. Hundreds of treaties were signed. And far too often, promises became just paper when gold appeared. History repeats itself forever until someone finds wealth beneath the ground. For many peoples, certain ceremonies were religion, serious. Vision, guidance, healing. No, curiosity. There were alliances and wars, politics and strategy, just like in any civilization. More than half of what you eat today was born here. Corn, potatoes, tomatoes, cultivated for thousands of years. Europe changed the way it ate, but the farmers who made it possible were almost never mentioned. And Europe took some of it for its own, out of curiosity. They took it up in elegant flights. If it's not him, everything is true. Even DNA suggests more complex stories. Migrations, contacts, questions that are still being investigated. Sometimes history takes centuries, but it eventually remembers those who were tried to be erased. These facts are documented. They're not comfortable, they're history. And that's why many preferred to bury it. If you learn something, share it. And if you want more hidden history,